Today, module 2 of level 1 is all about diving into unconditional love. Now, before you want to throw your laptop across the floor or your phone, and you're like, I've tried to do this, like it doesn't work. It's because there's a lot of misinformation about unconditional love out there. And there's not really the right tools to get you there, right? Most people are just going to say, have unconditional love for yourself. You're like, okay, great, thanks. Didn't think of that. How many people have had that? They're like, well, just have unconditional love. It's like if you're feeling anxious and someone's like, well, just don't feel anxious. You're like, oh, I didn't even think of that. So the statement unconditional love can be quite triggering. So before you want to punch me in the face, hear me out. We're going to make it untriggering in a second. A lot of the spiritual world has kind of watered it down and doesn't fully have the right understanding of unconditional love, which is why you're probably like fucking pissed and triggered at the word unconditional love. And because it's been such a buzzword lately. And I hate buzzwords. So we're going to like unpack this and not make it a buzzword anymore. We're going to just make it a very grounded thing that is essential. So it's been almost an impossible thing to achieve for myself, and we still work on it every day. I'm not saying I have achieved 1,000% conditional love at every moment of the day, but it's been a 10-year process. Um, it's a for a lot of people feels like an impossible thing to achieve. Now, but what I've learned over the past 10 years from being balls deep in self-image work and from using my intuition and from source is unconditional love is actually really complicated on a lot of levels. It's not just like a sentence of unconditional love and you can go around and be like, I unconditionally love myself and it actually work. That won't work. There's a lot of components to actually achieve it. So if you feel like we're going a little slow today, trust me, I could give you like the 39 ingredients to unconditional love right now, but they're not going to work until we start to train our brain slowly but surely to be able to see it and notice it. If we don't train our brain slowly but surely to see it and notice it, all the ingredients I could give you for it will not work because I've in my earlier years of teaching, I would just kind of skip like the 4 years of teaching things that took me 4 years to learn. I go right to the newer things that I was learning. But I was like, but I only got to the newer things I was learning because I went through the other 4 years of learning the more foundational things. And I would notice like people would get results, but then the results wouldn't last and that kind of thing. So I was like, how do I make results last for people? And I was like, oh, it's breaking it down even more and it's going really step by step and getting the brain used to things. Okay. So just keep that in mind as we go today. So what's really cool about Source is Source will tell anyone any really cool information. And the problem is most people are are thinking it's not Source. So Source is trying to tell everyone how to have unconditional love, but people are like writing it off like, oh, that's not Source talking or that's not Source. So the ones who are tapped into their intuition like you guys and who are actually wanting to listen to Source can maybe get through to, you guys a little better. So Source kind of is like trying to tell everyone like, here's how it works. Um, so what happens is people ignore those polls and so everyone gets disappointed by that unconditional love narrative because they feel like they've tried it and it hasn't worked. So they get disappointed and give up. Who here has felt that before? Like, let me know in the comments. Like, you've tried and it doesn't work. And so you're like, fuck, guess it's not possible. Yeah, a lot of yeses in here for sure. Okay, great. So hopefully this will start to change that for you today. So it's not that it hasn't worked. You're just probably missing a lot of the components because it's actually a really complicated formula. You know how we talk about ingredients to things? Like you need a certain amount of ingredients to make the perfect cake, to make the perfect steak, you need a certain amount of ingredients, right? You're probably just missing some of the ingredients and components to unconditional love. So I want to know from you guys, what do you think unconditional love is? And I want to know in the comments. Neutrality. Good. You've listened to the prereq podcast, seeing everything as perfect, making yourself a priority, seeing the positive and negative in everything. Okay. Yes. We've listened to the prereq podcast. This is good. Amazing. Loving yourself no matter what's going on, good, bad, great, perfect. Okay. So at a source level, we want to understand what it takes and what recipes are, aka ingredients, for the things we want. So everything in this world has a recipe. The formula of unconditional love is actually really complicated, okay? But what we can do is with a recipe like unconditional love that could be like that are hundreds and hundreds of ingredients, we can bring it down to, 14 ingredients. We can bring it down to way, way less. Now, why you feel a longing for unconditional love and why you feel like you need it and why you feel like you've maybe been called here and why you got excited when we were going to talk about it today and not like, oh, so annoying, unconditional love. Who wants that? Why you lit up today when I was like, unconditional love. Why maybe you feel like you need it, but you're not fully sure why is because of reflections. Okay. I get questions every fucking day. How do I make my reflections less? How do I make them stop? Make them stop. How do I make them go away? Well, number one, you don't want them to go away, but there is a way to get them to tone down. Okay. So if you've never heard me explain reflections before, which you should have by this point in the prerequisites, but real quick, just fast explanation. Reflections are basically any way that people are being toward you, any circumstance, event, situation you find yourself in or around is going to mirror back how you are being toward yourself in some area of life. Your beliefs about yourself, nobody is right or wrong. Whatever you believe to be true is going to be true. It's what people will act out back to you. You have a belief of you're not good enough. You bet your bottom dollar that everyone of the world and your relationships will act out to you and make you feel like you're not good enough. You feel stuck in life, you will find yourself stuck in traffic, right? And there's all these different, you feel stuck in life, you'll find yourself having lymphatic system blockages in your body. So many things. Any obstacle that's going on around your life is a reflection, just a reflection of how you're being toward yourself somewhere, okay? Now, we know this by now, so I don't really have to dive too much into reflections. Now, reflections, at the core idea of them, okay, they happen when you have a certain idea of yourself that is not in alignment with your highest self, that is not in alignment with your highest potential. So, originally, how the idea and how we're intended to be is originally the idea is the way that your higher self would see you. You see yourself like that. But then what happens is the world gets their hands on you. Your parents get their hands on you. Your teachers get their hands on you. Your classmates get their hands on you. Your coaches get their hands on you. The group mind virus gets their hands on you. Social media, Hollywood, the mainstream media get their hands on you. Okay? And if you are a light being like yourselves who have high potential in this life to do big things and expand consciousness, like all of you in here, then that even was 10 times worse for you than the average person who is here for just to have a normal human experience. Fun. You're like, yay, great. Awesome. But it is great. I'll tell you why. So, the whole understanding of reflections comes down to when these people and these things in the media and Hollywood get their hands on you and imprints on you and thought viruses and group mind viruses on you, and they succeed, right? They get into you. They crack you. And of course they succeed because we aren't brought up with a formula for unconditional love. So of course their beliefs and all of their shit and all their wounds take over. You slowly but surely get ripped away from your authentic truth, from your highest self, from seeing how you're perfect. Now, what happens is we lower than the idea of self. We're no longer seeing the perfection of ourselves. We start to see how we're flawed. We're not flawed, but we start to just believe that, right? How many people here, if they didn't do good in school, they didn't get attention or they didn't get praise from their parents, right? Programming right away. If you weren't picked in volleyball, or what's it called? Not volleyball. dodgeball, what's it called when they throw the balls at you? If you weren't picked in dodgeball, then no one wanted to be around you, right? And so then if you weren't good at everything you did right away, then you might as well go crawl in a hole and die. All right. And we take on all of these beliefs. So, I mean, I know for me, like if I remember this one time I was in dance class and it was acrobat class, like gymnastics, and we were learning front walkovers. And I was like 5 or 6, and everyone in the class was older than me. I don't know why I was put in that class. I think like maybe there wasn't a class for my age group, so they just threw me in there. They were like about 3 or 4 years older than me. And I was probably the worst one in there. Like I couldn't do the front walkover and I was like trying to catch up. And I remember I didn't think anything of it though until I walk out and my dad says to me, "Why are you the worst one in there? Like, Al, why are you the worst one in there? Everyone else is better than you." And so then I decided, oh my God, like I fucking should just basically die if I'm not better than everyone else in the room. And that followed me for a really, really, really long time. So instead of seeing the perfection of why being the quote worst in the room was perfect, I decided to not see the perfection in that moment. I decided to go down a rabbit hole of I might as well just not try unless I'm the best. Or it's embarrassing if I'm not the best, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not valuable if I'm not the best in the room. The thing is you are the best at being you. You are the best at doing exactly what you're supposed to do and play out. We're gonna get to that in a second. So what happens is we lower the idea of self when, people's own projections, limiting beliefs, whatever, get their claws, stoking into your brain. So I have dealt with I mean, there's been days where I've dealt with like 42 fucking reflections of 42 different things in one day. And I know everyone in here can probably feel that. I mean, the beginning of this class, everyone was like, reflections, 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 which I'm not shocked because that's what we're talking about today. Um, and I was like, in the days of dealing with 42 reflections in a day, like getting my car towed twice in one week, having to fork up like math, like $3,200 total for that in one week when I had $0 to my name, and then, getting having to break up with a boyfriend and then having him say things about me that weren't true, and then all of these things at once, right? And then getting insanely sick. I mean, this all happened in one week at one point, getting evicted from an apartment within the same 2 weeks of each other, right? And all of these reflections are pointing to different things, and you get so overwhelmed. You're like, I don't even know where to fucking start because I have 21,000 reflections right now. And I can clearly tell you all feel that way based on the comments before we started. And so what happened was like, okay, do I need to be dealing with 42 at once, or could I just be dealing with like one or two? And I love a good hack to the system. You know what I mean? I love a good like hack. I love a good like, let's get ahead and let's also do it without having to put as much work in, right? Because you could put a lot of energy into one reflection, or you could have 42 reflections and be having them put a lot of energy in all those, and it's like too much going on. So we love a good hack. So I want you to just like picture this. What if everything you did in life, the perceived good, the perceived bad, you were in support of for yourself? Like you thought it was absolutely fucking amazing. And I don't just mean the accomplishments that you think are absolutely amazing. I'm talking about what if everything, like every icky feeling, every spiky feeling, every undesirable thing that you think's undesirable about you, every weak moment, every single thing about the way you look, your breakouts, your unwanted extra fat, your anger, your jealousy. What if you literally felt like that is fucking the most perfect thing ever right now? And before you're like, well, Ali, if I see it as perfect, like, will I ever grow and up level in life? Like, will I just get complacent? No, because if you can see the anger in that moment as perfect, you can see how it's teaching you to up level your communication. Let's say you're in a fight with your, like me and Justin, when we get into arguments, I will somehow forget every emotional mastery tool I've ever learned. So I forget every emotional mastery tool I've ever learned, and I just start, not speaking in a way that is beneficial for myself or anyone. And, I'll start to forget that reflections exist, or really anything I've ever learned exists. And And I'll start to say things that I know even in the moment I'm going to regret saying in like 2.5 seconds because I know that like, I've learned and I know better. But do I know better? Have I practiced it like that well in that exact setting? No, right? So now I know, okay, when he says this, it's going to trigger this. Next time this happens, now you know to breathe for 8 counts before you answer. Oh, well, that's perfect that you learn that because you could be speaking to a room of whatever, 5,000 people at some point, and someone may say something really fucking rude to you, Allie. Do you want to embarrass yourself in front of 5,000 people? Or do you want to learn the practice of just counting to 8 before you respond? It's perfect how I responded there because it gave me a new tool to implement that I didn't have, right? So saying it's perfect doesn't mean like, get yourself out of jail and not expect anything more of yourself. But seeing how it's perfect is going, okay, wait, like I know that I'm capable of like just a higher frequency way of being and acting. And it was perfect how I did that because it gave me a tool to get there. Make sense? And I have a formula for this later, and we're going to get to that. So, if you could see all of that is perfect, what would happen to your idea of self? What would happen? Well, you aren't falling out of love with yourself anymore, which means you're not falling out of love, out of perfection anymore. Okay. Who remembers the source definition of unconditional love? Let me know in the comments. Who remembers the source definition of unconditional love? Neutrality. Good. Good. Neutrality. It's a which essentially the source definition of unconditional love. Yep, good. Seeing the pros and cons in every situation. Yep. It's understanding the universal law of balance, which is nothing is fully good, nothing is fully bad. Everything has an equal amount of both. Okay. Getting murdered is no more bad or good than making $1 billion. Making $1 billion is no more good than it is bad, right? So it's fully understanding and being in love with like seeing the perfection in all of it. Seeing the perfection in all of it is seeing the good, bad, and seeing all of it. That is a source definition of unconditional love and seeing how it is perfect. Seeing the good and the bad, seeing how it's perfect is a source definition of unconditional love. So, you guys who have been struggling with reflections, this is that missing ingredient. Unconditional love in some way, somehow, some area of your life, in some specific context, in some area of your life, probably more than one right now, is the missing ingredient. If I just did not see, so for example, if I could not see anything I did as undesirable, okay? Now, a story of when I felt undesirable is, and it's not just undesirable like sexually or like you don't feel hot or like desirable in the romantic way. It's like if I ever would make a mistake, oh, Allie, you suck. You're so bad. You shouldn't have done that. Crawl into a hole and die. You shouldn't even be here because you just suck and you should have known better, right? Who here has done that? You just start immediately beating yourself up. So you're seeing an action you take or something you said or something you did or your breakout or whatever as undesirable, okay? So when I was in, I mean, I've been that way my whole entire life up until, I've really worked on this piece the past 4 years. But two different stories of when it's really showed up. One, when I would beat myself up about like any decision I made. I mean, financially, like I would have an intuitive pull financially, and then the world, has their own limiting beliefs financially. So then I would let the world then make me beat myself up about the intuitive pull I got to take financially. And then I would beat myself up about the decision I made financially, even though it was an intuitive pull. Who here has done that? You've had an intuitive pull to do something, you do it, and then you're like, well, my mom wouldn't tell me to do that. It's like, yeah, you love your mom, but do you want her life? Like, or the guy on Instagram who talks about not buying coffee and saving your $6 to pay your mortgage wouldn't tell me to spend money that way. And it's like, yeah, but do you want his life? Do you want to live like that? Right? So, but then we start to like internalize and beat ourselves up. So that was my whole life. I did that. with everything, financial decisions, career decisions, even though I knew I was doing what I was supposed to do intuitively, I would then let people's opinions or the world or even Justin or close friends, I would let them like get in my head about that with their own beliefs or their own things. And then I would internalize it and I would think like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. That means that I feel like what I did was undesirable. Now, what do you think happens to your creator field when you think what you did or the decision you made or how you look or whatever it is undesirable? What do you think happens? Your creator field screams, don't desire me. You write a script in your creator field and it says, please, I'm begging you, don't desire me. I'm literally begging you to do anything but desire me. Which what happens is what how this happened for me is that there was a point in my relationship with Justin where he did not want to have sex with me. And it literally had nothing to do with actually me, but everything how I felt about myself. And I felt like my decisions were undesirable. Didn't have to be about my body, right? Like I was like feeling pretty fit. Like it wasn't about that. And it had a lot to do with I felt like my choices in finances and career. Emma's laughing because Justin's in the room right now with her and he's probably hearing everything I'm saying. Feel free to come say hey. They're literally right over there. You're the theme of a lot of my teachings. It's just, it is what it is. There he is. So he acted that out by literally not wanting to have sex with me. And he would literally, and this is not about him, he was acting out my script, okay? So no one get mad at Justy when I say this, it's about my script. I'm talking about me here. But he would literally say things like, I'm just not attracted to you right now, or I just don't want to have sex right now. And he was acting out my script of I'm not desirable, my decisions aren't desirable. Then what also happened was in career, at one point, I woke up one day and my 10 mentorship students who I had, who were each paying 4,000 to be in mentorship per month, all 10 of them left. Just all 10 of them, goodbye. Like they just all were like, I'm good here. Not being mean or anything, like just they were grateful and everything, but they were like, no, we're done. All 10 at once, not three at once, not four at once, all 10 of them at one time. So 10 plus 10 times 4,000, that's losing a lot of money. That's losing like $40,000 at one time. And because they didn't feel like my work was desirable anymore. Does that make sense? And if people don't feel like your work's desirable, well, they're not going to fucking pay you. They're not going to fucking give you the raise. They're not going to want to work with you. Again, it had nothing to do with me and my talent. I knew I was good intuitive. It had nothing to do with that. I felt like decisions I was making or things I was saying or ways I was feeling were undesirable. I felt like my emotions were undesirable. I didn't feel good in my emotions. Like I felt like if I was anything outside of happy and woohoo, like I felt like that was a burden. Okay. So that's what can happen in your life. So again, this would also happen when I was pro dancing. Like even in situations where I would know I was like pretty good. Or me and Emma had this experience actually. Emma can attest to this. We were at a dance conservatory in New York City, and there was a opportunity to be in like kind of a company there, like a dance company. I don't know what they called it, but like a dance company. And everyone and their mom seemed to like pass the auditions, and then me and Emma like never got in. We were like so confused because there were people who we knew had way less of a skill set at dance in there. And even her and I went on to pro dance, and then a lot of people in there didn't, and they didn't like get the opportunities. So it was very odd, right? And we're like, we know we're not like, the best of the best in the world, but we know we're like as good or better than certain people who are getting in here. Like we were just so confused. And every few months when there was auditions, we never fucking got in. And we were like so perplexed. Do you remember this? Of like, we were like, what the literal fuck? And it was because I felt like anything about my personality was not desirable. Like I always wanted to change myself. Not that my dancing wasn't desirable, but that's where it got reflected back to me, right? So it doesn't have to be the exact thing you're doing. It's usually somewhere else that you're doing it, and then that gets reflected back to you. So again, this is the missing ingredient, okay? And going, so if I just did not see anything I did as desirable, right? And I did not see anything that happened to me as a marker of what I can and cannot achieve. Like, what if I did that? What if I didn't see anything in my life as not desirable? And what if I did not see anything that happened to me as like a grade list or a marker of what I can and cannot do? Like, what could your life look like, right? And which, with unconditional love, it's a big part of this program, okay? So okay, picture a million people saying you suck. Like, you suck. Your idea's dumb. Unconditional love is not giving a fucking fuck. And not just saying you don't give a fuck. You know how people are like, I don't care what people think of me, but like they like deeply care what people think of them. If someone's saying I don't care what people think of me, they definitely care what people think of them. So take that as a as a good marker. But unconditional love is not giving a fuck, like truly embodying and knowing, like you not giving a fuck and not caring. Because you don't need external validation of people to love you to fill a void of you not loving yourself. Because if you have unconditional love for yourself, there is no void to fill. That is the result of unconditional love. It's the ability to truly feel and know in your being, the world is not the authority, I am the authority. The world is not the authority, I am the authority. Okay? On the thing that I was built to do. I am the authority on the thing that I was perfectly built to do. The soul path that my soul and source perfectly carved out for me. I am the authority in that. How I was built is exactly perfect and right for what I'm supposed to be here and do in this lifetime. Now, little caveat to that, I am the authority. We want to make sure it doesn't slip into I don't need to learn anything or do anything to get what I want. I can just sit here and people can just, pay me $1 billion, right? That's the ego. And that's from an imbalance of feeling deeply disconnected from unconditional love anyway. Unconditional love is I am built perfectly for the people I'm here to impact and what I'm here to do. And there's no one better than me to do what my soul contract is here to do. And you learn where you feel pulled to learn from, right? To enhance and awaken your knowledge that's already built within you. It's just dormant right now. Right. So it's not like, oh, I'm the authority. I don't need anyone. I don't need anything. I don't need to do anything. People should just pay me because I'm here. Right. It's like if you want to be a doctor, you've got to earn your right to be a doctor and go to medical school. If you want to be a whatever, you got to earn your right and like awaken the dormant skill sets within you. But a doctor, even who is a doctor and who had to go to medical school to earn their right, all they were doing in medical school was awakening the dormant skill sets. I've never felt a pull to go to medical school because I would be a fucking awful doctor. I would pass out in the first 2 fucking seconds. So of course I had no pull to go to medical school to awaken dormant skill sets of being a doctor. I don't have any dormant skill sets of being a doctor. So do you see the difference? It's not an ego thing of like, I can just sit here and do whatever and not do anything. But I'm the authority and I'm going to follow my intuitive pulls that I'm the authority over. And to go do, learn, be wherever I have to go do, learn, and be to awaken the knowledge that's already in my soul. It's just dormant. I just have to go somewhere to awaken it. Okay. So, and not to mention, source, you're going to tell me source is perfect. Source designed, look how beautiful the fucking earth is, the ocean. I mean, what the fuck? It's stunning. So you mean tell me source who designed the fucking earth, who put the idea in someone's head to make Zoom, where I can be in Texas and you can be anywhere and I can be seeing you and talking to you in real time. Genius. So if Source perfectly designed all of this, do you really think Source fucked up on you? Do you really think there's anything about you that's actually not fucking perfectly made? And if your higher self is so intelligent and it knows what you're going to do and what decisions you're going to make, and it already knows how you're going to respond and what's going to get you to do this and what's going to get you to be over here, how can your higher self fuck up? right? So, and you mean to tell me that you're not perfect? So, unconditional love, it's a bit of a complicated formula that we're going to simplify starting today. This is not the only module on unconditional love. The rest of these modules are going to be deeper and deeper and deeper into ingredients and unconditional love things, and we're going to start here today. So, but I want you to understand that this unconditional love topic, that's been, frowned upon and almost like made fun of too, right? It's gotten that reputation because dark forces have created an agenda to make you frown upon it because dark forces love a good hole in your creator field, right? What's a hole in your creator field? Let me know. I'll wait in the comments. What's a hole in your creator field? It is. It's where dark forces can court in. Yep. Not feeling enough, doubt, absence of light. Yeah, doubt. Good. A hole in the creator field is basically any emotion you're having that's outside of love, that's outside of perfect. Everything I've done was perfect. The mistakes I've made are perfect, all of it. What happens is you create a lower frequency emotion then, and the lower frequency emotion becomes a match for dark forces to cord into you. And they love it, okay? And the whole meaning lower frequency part, right? Out of love part with yourself. And now that's in your creator field. So they can get in there and they can take you even more away from your power because the last thing they want is for you to be in your power. Now we talk more about that in Fuck Dark Forces course, and you can go in there anytime. But if you just didn't have an unconditional love and balance, dark forces would have a very, very, very hard time getting in and causing havoc in your life. Unconditional self-love can get rid of a 98% of all of your reflections. And the more you achieve unconditional self-love, the more the reflections go away. Okay. So now don't go thinking, oh my God, I've just learned about unconditional love one time. I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I'm going to have no reflections. No, that's not how it works. And I don't want to set you up for like some false hope thing. So I'm going to crush all your dreams right now. You're going to hate me, but you'll feel better later. So you actually might wake up with the opposite tomorrow, with even more reflections tomorrow, to show you all the ways that you are out of unconditional love with yourself. But it sounds like they're already starting based on what you've told me earlier today. But they're all going to come up so you can slowly but surely fall into unconditional love with yourself in each of those areas, in each of those ways, so that you can keep going up and up and up on the scale of unconditional love and the way and keep building those building blocks, right? Building, 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 building to the point where it is just ingrained in your system. Now, nothing I teach or do is an overnight success. If anyone is selling you an overnight success, run the other fucking way. Because we are building a lifelong, incredibly strong and sturdy results in our creator field. And when you see yourself as perfect and you are already perfect, you do not need to change. You have cracked the code and you've diminished most of your reflections. The only reason you have obstacles and blocks is because you are out of unconditional love in one of the 8 areas of life with something specific in one of those 8 areas. So it becomes complicated because it's not just a blanket statement like, oh, I'm not unconditionally loving myself. I'm not seeing the perfection. What specifically? Because over the past 10 years of being balls deep in self-image, I still get reflections of where I'm out of unconditional love in a very specific thing. It's like when I was planning my wedding and we were paying for the wedding and all of that. I remember intuitively knowing I was supposed to pay the amount that I paid for the wedding. I was supposed to have the wedding I did because of so many reasons. Like it was going to amplify so many areas of my life, finances, career, happiness levels, right? And relationships with people. It was going to amplify all of those. So I intuitively knew the money I was paying for it, which was a good amount for a wedding. I knew I was supposed to. But what happened was I let other people's ideas get in my head. So every time I would go send, the invoice and send the wire over, I intuitively know I'm supposed to do it, but I would hear other people's voices in my head about like, oh no, I could have put that somewhere else, or I should have saved that, or I do like it's one day, whatever. And I hear all these other people's beliefs. Well, I was out of unconditional love with myself. And that's a little nuanced specific thing that I had to work through. So it's not just working through unconditional love with yourself financially, but it's like every little tiny decision you make financially, and every little tiny thing you do financially, and every little tiny thing you believe financially or that comes up for you financially, right? It's every little event and moment. It's working through unconditional love for each of those ones. So that's why we're not going to go down the list of the 8 areas of life and just give you an ingredient for 8 of those areas. No, because it's so much more nuanced than that. Does that make sense? Like there's little tiny areas. So it's not just like, oh, here's 8 different ways to unconditionally love yourself in 8 different areas of life. No, it's very, very nuanced. And so it's better if I give you a tool for when it comes up versus just giving you a blanket tool for everything because it won't work. So we'll get to those in a second. But the group mind and the group thought viruses out there of the world, telling you that you're not perfect. And because you're hearing it from so many places, which is actually how beliefs work, by the way. So, fun fact about how the brain works is this is crazy. The things you hear, like the truth is whatever the first thing you hear is going to be true, is what your brain's going to decide is true. So the first thing you hear about something is what your brain is going to decide is true, even if it's like so far off base and not true. Who can think of an example of this? Maybe the first thing you heard about a person you thought was true, but then you met the person, you're like, wait, I actually like this person. Like, I don't get what the other person was saying. Or the first thing you heard about a podcast or whatever, or a teacher or a book or whatever it is. Or the first thing you heard about someone in the media. The first thing we hear, our brain just decides it's true, even if it's like so far off from the truth. So you're hearing, the problem with this is you're hearing from your parents things like you're only valuable or you only get attention from us if you get a good grade. So that's what your brain automatically thinks then is the truth. And that's how beliefs work. Oh, mom and dad gave me attention when I came home from kindergarten with 100% on my test. And they praised me and they took me for ice cream. But when I got a C, I got yelled at. And then I felt like bad about myself. Okay. So then that means the truth is that if I don't impress other people, then I'm not valuable and I don't deserve love. And then that just then becomes our truth. That's the first thing your brain heard and was taught. Doesn't mean it's the truth, but that becomes our truth. So then you're all like, I'm not perfect. And then cue the reflections and cue the obstacles. And there's so many nuances again to not perfect. It's not just something like you're perfect. It's feeling like you are perfect in all areas of life, in every single nuance, in every single thought, in every single emotion, in every single belief, in every single action and reaction, in every single reaction, even when you play the villain for somebody else, seeing how that's perfect. Not excusing it and not going, oh no, I can do a higher frequency thing, but seeing how it's perfect to get you to do the higher frequency thing.